Good day, students. You are welcome to the 8th week of the facilitation series in AGR 201 General Agriculture. And this 8th week, we'll be talking about the edaphic factors that affect crop production. Soil, as we all know, is the medium of plant growth. So therefore, the edaphic factors can be divided into three major parts, which is the physical aspect, the chemical aspect, and the biological aspect. We will be discussing all these characteristics and all these features, factors in this facilitation video. So let us go along and have a wonderful time. Thank you. Like I said in my introductory slide, I still remain Alawode Yetunde and my email has not changed. It is still yalawode@noun.edu.ng. As a means of introduction, edaphic factors are the soil factors affecting crop production. Soil, like I said in my introductory slide, is important because it is the medium of crop growth. Therefore, crop productivity is strongly dependent on soil, physical, chemical, and biological conditions. And we are going to start one after the other. And the first factors we'll be talking about are the physical soil factors affecting crop production. These include the soil texture, soil structure, soil porosity, and bulk density. Soil texture simply can be defined as the relative proportion of sand, silt, clay, and gravel or stone particles in the soil. When you're talking about the texture, you're talking of how the soil feels in the hand. When you rub the soil between your thumb and your first finger, you want to know the particle which is more so that you can know which kind of crop can be planted on that particular piece of land. Some plants require sandy soil for their growth. Some cannot even stand the sandy soil. We can go on and on because we know that the basic soil types are the sandy, the clay, and the loamy soil. So this soil texture is talking about the relative proportion of these particles in the soil so that you can know what kind of plant to be grown on that particular kind of soil. However, the best kind of soil should be well drained and the loamy soil for most of the crops. What are the importance of soil texture? Soil texture influences water holding capacity, that's the ability of the soil to hold water. If the soil has a lot of clay particles in it, then the water holding capacity is going to be is going to be altered because the soil is going to hold so much water and even cause waterlogging of the soil. While if the soil is more of the sandy type, then you just see all the water draining down. So it has to be in between to have your maximum yield. And also soil texture affects the temperature, drainage, and nutrient retention capacity of the soil. The second point is that soil texture influences the efficacy of soil applied pre-emergent herbicides and other pesticides because when you use these chemicals, you want the plants to be able to maximize its use. So when you have a soil that drains easily, then when you use pesticides or herbicides, this soil cannot hold it, so the plants cannot have access to these chemicals. But if the soil is in the right proportion, like the loamy kind of soil, then your plant has maximum use of all these chemicals. Also, soils are classified into light, which is the sandy workable type, then the medium, which is the loamy and is the most workable. In fact, it is the best kind of soil. And we have the heavy types, and that one has major clay and is usually unworkable, especially in terms of machinery use. So when you use your machines on this kind of unworkable soil, you just see that the machine will just be pulling the soil back. It's usually a waste of energy. Now the next point we'll be talking about is the soil structure, and this is defined as the arrangement of these particles, that's the sand, the silt, and the clay in the soil. How are these particles arranged in the soil? That is talking about the soil structure. So a soil with a good structural stability is essential to prevent soil degradation and limited crop growth. Soil structure will however be improved by addition of organic matter in the compostable type, and we have the farmer yard manure, we have the green manure, we have compost. These are all kinds of organic matter. And also heavy machinery can cause damage of soil structure, because what the machines do is that they break this structure and they make them even more um, finer, so it destroys the soil structure, and especially the heavy clay soils. Why is soil structure important? It influences soil tilth, because when they what the machine, the harrow, the plow will do is to make the soil particles more crummy, more finer. So it influences the tilth so that soil water can aeration can take place, water nutrient transfer can take place, and all those things are essential for the plant growth. It also supports the root growth development, because when the soil is well drained and the tilth is finer, then the roots can penetrate and even stand firm in the soil. Also, gaseous exchange and aeration, like I talked about, when the soil is well improved and the stability is good, then there is gaseous exchange and there is movement of air in and out of the soil. Also, drainage and water infiltration in the soil is also an importance of soil structure, because if the soil is not well drained, then water cannot get into the soil, thereby causing crop yield. Efficiency of water and nutrient uptake by the plant is also an important factor of soil structure. Now, the structural stability is the stability of the soil to resist deformation when wet. So, how strong is your soil? How stable is it even when it is wet? That is what the structural stability talks about, and is influenced by the clay content, presence of lime, iron oxide, and humus. So these are the things that make the soil to resist deformation when wet. The next point is the soil porosity, and this is defined as the percentage volume filled with air when the soil is fully drained of saturated water. You're talking of porosity, you're talking of how porous, how can the soil be able to withstand water. Okay, soil porosity influences infiltration of water, moving in and out of water, how the water can get into the soil, how the roots can be able to trap water and send it to the plant. All this is also influenced by soil porosity, and also the water holding capacity and drainage, aeration of the soil aggregate. These properties are significant on the soil and also the soil organic matter status. So this, for example, you can see two different types of soil here. You can see that one is more cracked up than the other. One is dispersed and the other is cracked. So you can tell that this cracked up soil has more clay content, because this is the behavior of clay soils when they are dry. It cracks up, and this is very difficult for the plants to grow in this kind of soil. However, the well-drained kind of soil is the best for any plant growth. Why is soil porosity important? Number one, ecologically, soil erosion plays a significant role in organic residue decomposition. Okay, so you need the soil to be porous, not too porous rather. You need it to be porous so that oxygen, the soil can breathe, air can go in and come out so that organic residue can be decomposed on time. And also this oxidation reduction of elements, especially the nutrient elements, is also important for the oxidation reaction or reduction of these elements so that they can be broken down and taken up by the plant. So plant growth, also nutrient and water uptake is an important factor of soil porosity. Also soil compaction, soil structure and soil cultivation are importance of soil porosity. Aeration capacity is very high in sandy soil, is optimal in loamy soils, and it is very low in clay soil because clay particles are tiny and they are easily prone to waterlogging. However, organic matter additions can improve aeration capacity of clay soil. So if you mix your clay soil with organic matter, it will go a long way to help the plant to survive. Soil bulk density is the fourth point of the physical factors that affect um, crop production, and this is the mass of soil per unit volume of the soil. The mass of soil per unit volume of the soil. You're talking of density, so you are talking of volume. So how what volume is the soil per unit? Okay, and it is determined by the volume of the pore spaces because there are pore spaces in the soil. So per unit area, what volume of pore spaces can be found? Okay, the more the pore spaces, the lower the bulk density, and vice versa for high bulk density or soil compaction. So this is how it is being measured in the picture here. You can see what they use to measure this um, soil bulk density. Why is it important? It affects the workability of the soil. Because we are talking of pores, we are talking of pores here. So the better the aeration, the more workable the soil. And especially with respect to mechanical cultivation, for the workable kind of soils, the mechanical cultivation is easier than for the unworkable or clay kinds of soil, especially in the dry weather where there is no water. So no tillage or minimum tillage is also strongly affected by soil compaction because when you do not till the ground, the soil becomes compact, it becomes strong. So it is usually difficult for the roots to penetrate or for crops to do well in this kind of soil. Now, soil water. Talking about soil water now. Water is held in the soil in three different forms: the capillary water, gravitational water, and hygroscopic water. The capillary water, that's talking about surface tension forces around the particles of the soil and in the capillary pore spaces of the soil. So we are talking of water held around the particle of the soil by surface tension forces. Okay, they form like a film around these soil particles and they are always there in capillary water. For the gravitational water, water is held in soil particles against gravitational forces, okay, and suction forces of the root. So you see this water around the root area of the plant. And for the third type, which is the hygroscopic water, water absorbed from the atmosphere. This one is water absorbed from the atmosphere of water vapor. So we are talking of vapor this time around. Hygroscopic water is absorbed from the atmosphere of water vapor as a result of attractive forces in the surface of the soil, particles and aggregates. So these are the forms in which water can be found in the soil. Now moving on to the chemical factors that affect crop production. The first chemical factor we'll be talking about is the soil organic matter. The second one is the soil pH. And the third one is the um sorry, I have to take it back. Okay, let's just move on. The soil organic matter. This is the proportion of fresh organic material and humus. Humus is partly decomposed and synthesized organic material, and humus can be found as a result of the work of the earthworm in the soil. So when they feed on the soil and they pass it out, it forms this humus kind of a thing, and this humus is an indication of rich soil. So soil organic matter is talking about your um, decomposed material. It may be animal waste, it may be plant waste, but they must be properly decomposed and synthesized organic material. And these materials exert a profound influence on crop nutrients. Okay, so they release what they do is that they release nutrients to the soil in a slow way. It is not usually fast, it is a slow way. And this also helps to preserve soil structure and cultivation. Um, okay, soil, it's important to note that soil organic matter is a rich source of important plant nutrients, especially the NPK, the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and most especially nitrogen because it is purely derived from organic matter. And organic matter also influences soil color. When you see organic matter, you notice the darker color, usually darker, that soil is usually darker in color. And also the temperature, it helps to balance the temperature. Where the temperature is high, if you introduce the organic matter, it cools the soil. So it minimizes evaporation from the soil surface, and also water holding capacity. So it has a lot of benefits. Soil organic matter have a lot of benefits. Helps in water retention, infiltration, pH, and exchangeable capacity of the soil. It's also a main source of the heterotrophic soil organisms. Yeah, these are the organisms that help in the decomposing process. So it also says that it's a main source of energy for them and stimulates that their reproduction and growth. Now moving on to soil pH, this is the next chemical factor. This is how pH is actually written. This is the correct way it is written, and this indicates the degree of the acidity or alkalinity of the soil. It is significant in determining soil chemical reactions. So what you do is when you have a piece of land that you want to use, it is important because sometimes you see the soil and then you see the color, you see everything, you feel fine, this soil is the best. And then you plant and then see different kind of results that are not so good. Then you now start to wonder what is happening. So in most cases, it may be the soil acidity. The soil may be really acidic, and if the soil is too acidic, it's not really good for the plants. If the soil is also too alkaline, because like you can see here in this picture, this is the pH scale, and this 7 is neutral. This seven is neutral. So any of the figures, okay, from below 7 down to 1, that is acidic. Acid, let's say A, and from 7 above to 14, it's usually it's a scale of 14 rather, is alkaline or basic. Let's call it this B. So this 7 is in the middle, it's neutral. You can see the color changing when it is decreasing, when it gets to 4 to 3, it's acidic because it will turn red. We use a litmus paper for that. And you can see it when it's going alkaline, how it's turning blue. So that is what the pH scale looks like. And these are the colors you get. It's exactly what it is. So you know if the soil is acidic, you only plant crops that will favor the acid environment on it. And if it is alkaline, but usually a pH of like 5.5 is the best for plant growth. So moving on, soil acidity. What does it do? It's caused by, but how did soil acidity come about? Okay, soil acidity, that's when the soil is lower in the pH value, lower than 7, okay, from 6 below to 1. Soil acidity is actually caused by carbonic acid in rainfall. So when the rain falls, it produces this acid and mixes, the chemical reaction takes place, and organic acids are formed from microbial breakdown of organic matter. So when the rain falls on organic matter, it helps to break it down, and it also forms the carbonic acid in the process. And also ammonia is formed from nitrification, and also calcium, loss of calcium in drainage is caused. So you can improve a soil, okay, by liming it. That is how you correct soil activity. You apply lime to the soil, and liming materials include your calcium carbonate, your calcium oxide, calcium hydroxide. So these are liming materials. And the magnesia limestone. These are materials that can use to increase the you use it to improve soil acidity of your piece of land. Also, crop families can occur at stage 5 or below, and it's necessary to analyze your soil pH regularly so that you can know the line requirement to use, so that you won't use uh, okay, for available plant nutrients. It's important to note here that nutrients are usually in three major forms in the soil. We have the micro, the meso, and the micro nutrients. And you're talking of macro, you're talking of nutrients that are required in large quantities. You have your basic nutrients, you have the NPKs, the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. They are important for plant growth and they are required in large quantities. Then you have the macronutrients. These ones are like in between. You require them in quite uh, large quantity, but not as large as the first group, and not as small as the third group either. So it's like in between, and we have nutrients like calcium, we have magnesium and sulfur. And the third type is the micronutrients. And when you go micro, you're talking of something that is required in a minute quantity. And it's also important. You don't just say because you require the minute quantities, then you don't need to know. It helps in enzyme systems, in protein synthesis, carbohydrate metabolism, nitrogen fixation, chlorophyll formation, pod maturity, and reproduction, growth hormones, you can list it on and on. So they are defined in minute quantities and they are also very important for plant growth. And these nutrients include the copper, molybdenum, chlorine, boron, zinc, manganese, and iron. So moving on to the third, which are the biological factors of soil affecting crop production, and these processes are usually complex. But however, we can simplify it and say that there are two major biological factors which affect crop production, and the first one is soil fauna, second is the soil flora. The soil fauna is talking about beneficial and damaging animal organisms. Yeah, beneficial and damaging. Could be beneficial because they help in breakdown of crop residues and release organic matter to the soil. And an example of this is the earthworm. And as well, these organisms living in the soil could be damaging, like the earworms, the beetles, the wireworms, the nematodes. You can see them in this picture. These are the soil fauna. There are so many organisms in the soil. Some are beneficial, some are harmful. Soil flora is talking about pathogens such as bacteria, fungi, viruses, and they are important sources of soil infection. So they infect the soil, they infect the plant, and they affect the crop plant generally. So this is what the soil flora is all about. They are the ones that cause the diseases and test the cause the diseases of. Now, having talked about the factors that the basic factors that affect crop production, it's important to know the types of soil that can be found in the ecological zones in Nigeria. And there are so many, but they have been carefully grouped to seven and six rather or more. So we are going to talk about six here. We have the alluvials, we have the terrasols, we have the heterogeneous tropical soil, the little soils, the vertisols, and the regular soils. So these are the six we'll be talking about in this classification today. The first one is the alluvial. I mean, when we talk about alluvial soils, we talk about the river kind of soils, the kind of soils that you find at the river plains, the river bays, you know. So there are three types actually. We have the alluvial of marine deposits, and it's usually found in the mangrove areas. They're suitable for coconut growing only. You find them in the beaches, you find them when you get to all these beaches around, you see them there. And you also have the alluvial near the coast, which is usually high in sulfide. And when they become drained, they have a tendency to become very, very acidic. And the third is the alluvial on the lava streams and the riverine deposits, which is the most usual actually when they are controlled, when the drainage is being controlled. Now the ferrosols, this is what it looks like in the picture here. And they're acid soils actually because they have a pH of 5 to 5.5, and they have this characteristic reddish yellow color because of the iron that is present in it. So these particular soils, you see them mostly in the southern part of western Nigeria, the southern part of the current zone, and you can also find them in the midwestern and eastern states. So they have low fertility and low agricultural value, but they are suitable if you have mechanized, if you want to practice the mechanized form of agriculture, then why not? You can go ahead and use. You have the heterogeneous tropical soil, quite similar to the previous one, but this one is formed from a crystalline acid rock. Okay, and except those developed on sandy lands, it is sometimes hydromorphic in nature. It has, however, it has a high natural fertility, but traditional management practices have caused problems of crop production. Though The fact that it is highly fertile does not mean you cannot manage it. So what they're trying to say is if you want to use it, you have to know how to manage it to get your high yield. We have the little soil, this is what it looks like, and these are soils of local significance. They're usually associated with the heterogeneous tropical soil, and although agricultural activity is low, it needs to be protected from soil erosion because it is usually easily prone to soil erosion, and it's quite fertile in nature. The veggie soil, this one has high clay content. You can see it from the characteristic in the picture here. So they are usually dark colored and they have large amounts of clay, that's the kaolinites. They occur in deep cracks during the dry season. You can see the cracks all over the whole place because it is dry, so it cracks open, and it is rich in calcium, especially the calcium sulfide, and also they are developed from calcareous rock, so they have great potential of agriculture well managed, of course. Now talking about the rego soils, you can see like in this picture here, these overlay semi-arid brown and reddish brown soils. So that's their characteristic. Overlay semi-arid brown and reddish brown soil. So, however, the organic matter content is nearly constant. Okay, so um, this they may have clay content that is high, but within the soil depth. So that is about the regular soil. Having said that, we have come to the end of this facilitation for this week. I hope you learned quite some things, and for your class activity I would like that you list these various types of soils in the ecological zones of Nigeria, and discuss any two. Also, I would like you to state the factors affecting the adaptive factors affecting soil production. So thank you so much for your patience. Thank you um, for attending the class, and I wish the best for everyone. Thank you so much. Gracias. Bye.